Hi guys, this is Mike back with another Python Django tutorial for you. As promised, this week I'm going to look into how you go about filtering information so that the information that's shown on your site is specific to the user and what you're allowing them to see. Now with that, I'm going to kill two birds with one stone, because in the last couple of tutorials I covered messaging, but we had questions about how do we actually send notifications to specific users as well. So these are the kind of messages that turn up on your page when you've logged into a website, and you see a list of notifications at the top of the page that are specific to you. It's kind of like an internal email system for your website. So I'm going to kill two birds with one stone, and we're basically going to do both of those because they more or less demonstrate each other quite well, so that's what we're going to do. So we're inside our normal Django installation, so we're going to start a new app inside of there. Notification, and we're going to use the manage.py start app command just to create that new notification app within our folder structure. So once you've run that command, you should see the notification folder there, and if you look inside of there, you'll get your bog standard ini file, your models, your views, your tests. Two files that you won't get are the URLs and the admin, because we're going to have our own set of URLs for this notification system, and we're going to then also supply some information to the Django admin so that we can monitor and change notifications inside the system using just the admin pages in the back end. So you might want to just create those as two empty files for the time being, and then we'll go on to those later on and I'll explain what they are. So we've created those files on the system. The first thing to get done, I think, is probably to create our model. Actually no, we need to go to the settings and we need to include this notification app in our installed apps section. Once that's in there, we know that the code that we create inside of this app is automatically imported into the project and we can access it. So now we'll go on and have a look at our model. Now the model for the notification is, usually you have a notification in the same format as you would get an email. So you have a subject line or a title, and then you have the actual message that's involved. Okay, that sounds like the ice cream man's coming up the street, so I'm just going to pause and shut the window whilst he's coming up the street. Excuse me just a second. Okay, so now that I've got the noise of an ice cream van away from my video recording, we can continue. So we're basically going to create a model. So as with all our models, the first line we normally import is the django.db import models statement. Next we're going to pull in the user. Now the reason why we're doing that is because we're going to actually form a foreign key relationship between the notification and the user. So we need to bring in the user so that we can tell the foreign key what it's associated with, which we'll see in a second. After that, I'm going to use a trick that I showed you in previous tutorials when we talked about signals, and I'm going to monitor the save signal for the user, and if there's a brand new user created, we're going to automatically create a welcome message for that user. So very often when you register with a new site, they send you one message to start off to just say welcome to the site, thanks for registering, that sort of thing. So we're gonna duplicate that kind of thing, so you'll get to see how that works. As well as that, we're going to bring in the receiver decorator, which is what we'll use to tie everything in. Then first of all, we just basically declare our notification class, which is derived from models.model. And in there, the first field we're going to add is a char field, which is only 256 characters long, which is our title. Then a message, which is a text field, so that can be any length of characters. So you can put in a nice long message with links and stuff in your website. The next one is a Boolean field, which just basically is a true or false field that says, has this been viewed? True or false. The next line is basically where we form our relationship between the user and this notification. Now, what will happen is this notification will be able to then do searches to see which user it's associated with in the database. And that becomes really useful because when we actually start drawing up information to put onto our users' landing page or home page, we can literally use that association to bind them together and to get their records out very easily. So here's our post save signal that we're gonna hook onto. So we're gonna say this next function that we're about to declare is the post save, is going to respond to post save from the user model. So it'll look into there. As soon as the user does a post save signal through the system, we will hang on to that and we'll execute create welcome message. We'll first test, as we did when we did our user profile tutorial. We're going to test to see whether it's been created, and if that's false, then this basically means that this is the first time that this user account has been created in the system. So we don't want to do this on every single time around, we just want to do it when they first ever register. And what we're going to do is we're going to use the notifications model to create a new notification object. The user is going to be the instance that's passed through the KW args, so the keyword arguments. The title is going to be welcome to our Django site, and the message, thanks for signing up. So every new user gets a message inside the system or a notification that just says welcome to the site, thanks for signing up. Okay, so that's our first model done. Now that we've created that model, we should then go on to use South to create a migration for it. And because it's a new model, we need to create an initial migration. So we use schema migration notification, which is the app -- initial, just to say create us a brand new one in the system. Once we've done that, we can go ahead and do manage.py migrate, and that'll create in the database a couple of entries inside the database. There'll be a record inside of the South migration history, and there'll also be a new notification _ notification table created with all the relevant fields. Okay, so that's our command line stuff to make sure that this all works. And the next bit is we're going to now start and define the views for this notification system so that we can know what it does. So the first thing we need to do when we do views is we need to create something that ties in how the URL system works. Now everything on here is going to be along the lines of notification show or delete, as you can see there. So we need to define in here how that works. So the first thing we do is import our two helper functions, patterns and URL, just to basically help us build a set of patterns for this notification. Now just to be careful, this is the urls.py file that we created in the notification app folder that we're dealing with here. We will also edit the main URLs file as well, but that'll be in shortly once I've shown you how the URLs for this particular app work. So we've imported that. As always, we go URL patterns equals. Now normally you leave that empty, but someone reminded me that you can actually do a shortcut and shorten a lot of the typing in the further URL declarations. In that, if you put the app name and the views file name in there, when you start declaring your URLs, like this first one, we don't have to put notification.views.show notification in here. We just need to put show notification, and because we've already put this part in, it assumes that what goes before it. So it assumes that this is prefixed onto there. So this being our first view, it's going to be under the URL show. So when we do in the browser, we go notification / then show will be tacked onto the end, and then it will do a little search to see if there's any parameters to that, and this is basically us looking for an ID which is of type number, which can be more than one digit, it can be multiple digits, and then pass that through to the show notification. And again, the next one is going to be delete, follows the same URL argument pattern, but then passes through to the delete notification function. So by putting this extra line in here with that, we've vastly shortened that, but we also need to keep in mind that this is actually subject to what's in this line. So if you want to be very specific, you could leave that blank and then make sure you tack on notification.views.show notification in here instead. It's up to you. It doesn't really matter too greatly. It's just, that's a nice little shorthand way of doing it. Okay, so now we're going to move on to the view. So first thing we do is import our render to response function, which is stood us in good stead all the way through the series. Then we're going to also import the response redirect, because our delete function is going to use that after it's done a little bit of business logic. It's going to pass back through to the logged in page, or the home page. Then we're going to import the model, because we need the model to do a quick search to find the objects that we're looking for. Now our first function is show notification. It's got its request object in there, but also the notification ID that we've actually defined inside of here. We said that it would be passed a notification ID, which is of type number. So then we basically do notification.objects.get, where the ID is notification ID, and return it into N for short. And then we just render response, making sure that we specify the template that we're going to use, and then saying that there's going to be a notification object in there which contains the contents of N. Very simple, and if you've done your other tutorials, you know exactly what that means, so I'll move on quickly. The next one is our delete notification, and again it just passes in a notification ID, does another search to find it. This time we update the viewed property, which we defined in our models. So we've got a viewed property there. We put that to true, so it's obviously been seen, and then we just save, and then finally redirect back to the accounts logged in page, which is my landing page in this site. It might be different in your site, but you can change that according to what you need. Okay, so that's our model, our URLs, our views, our settings are set up. The notification page needs to be created. Now, the notification page is just basically the template that's going to show us how the notification should be displayed. So it's very easy, and I'm just going to whiz through this. It extends the base HTML like all of our other pages. We're going to override the content block. We're just going to put the title in, the notification message, and a link, so that we can mark this note message as read. So you'll notice whilst I'm saying delete in here and in the actual views, I'm saying delete notification. It isn't really deleting it, it's actually just updating the status to say this has been viewed. And we'll use that flag later on to then test to see if something's been viewed or not, and to not show the viewed messages, but the messages will still remain in the system. And sometimes that's useful because then you can maintain a history of past messages, so that if someone, say you had a legal website and someone got a message and then claimed that they hadn't got it and therefore had done something wrong, you could then go into the history and say, well, you clearly have, because it's marked as having been viewed on your website, on your web page. So you haven't actually gotten rid of the data, you've kept it, you've just marked it as not to be viewed anymore. Something useful in the future that you might find helps you out. It's worth keeping in mind. Okay, so back to the HTML. No, wrong HTML, this one. So we've got that link. So this just basically shows the details of the page and then gives us a link. And then obviously when you click this mark as read notification, it goes through to this delete notification, changes the status and pushes you back to the logged in page. Now on the logged in page, because we've now got some notifications, we're going to need to add somewhere to actually put them on the page. So just underneath where it says hi such and such, you are now logged in, we're going to add an extra section. We're going to add a section that says if the notifications count is greater than 1. So if there are any notifications, then do the following. Add a header saying notifications, and then for every notification n in the notifications list, add this link, or a paragraph with a link in. That's basically a link to the notification show URL. And then put the title in there as the text for the link. Okay, so now that it knows how to display the notifications, we then need to go into our main views and look for the URL logged in section, which is just here. Now we need to first of all import the notifications model, because we're going to use it to search inside when we get into the logged in page. And then on the logged in page we're going to use the filter function instead of the get function. And the main reason for that is because whilst we know what the user is, which is contained in our request, and if it's not logged in there will be no user, we want to be able to also filter by the viewed option too. So we use filter instead and just pass it in the two parameters and what settings they should be. Then we place that in a variable called n, and then add it in to the arguments for the context of what's going in under notifications. So we make that into the notifications array, which is then looked at in this for loop. Okay. The last thing to do is just to basically make sure that the URLs from the notifications app are included in the main Django app, or the main Django projects URLs list. And all we do is we'll add this line like we have done with the articles in the past, and that should be enough to make sure that they're all available to each other. And that's it. That's everything we need to cover. So let's just run the server just to test it out. Okay, so what we'll do first of all is we will register a new user, and I'm going to call him new user 4. Email me at name.com, password let me in. That's an industry standard, by the way. So then we register, and it says you have been registered. Click here to log in again. So user 4, wasn't it? Password let me in, and there you go. So here's the notification, and as you can see, it's a brand new link. This is the one that was created by our signals code over in the models, because it detected that we'd registered a new user and created that. So then now inside the system we've got this notification that's sitting there saying hasn't been viewed yet, so display it. So now we'll look at it. Basically gives you the message, thanks for signing up, and gives you the option to mark it as being read. Now you might not want to give the people an option, you might want to have just updated that anyway by virtue of the fact that they've looked at this page. The choice is yours. But basically all that would do is click it as mark as read and pass me back to my splash page, and then you can see there's no notifications left there. Now if I go into the Django admin system, and if I just check that I actually did do the admin section. No, I didn't. Right, just a second, let's just stop the server, quickly update the admin. We need to add, nope. Okay, just give me 2 seconds and we'll type this in. Back in 2 seconds. Okay, right, so I'm back, and we just got to finish off by doing admin.site.register notification. That should be enough. Right, if we just now restart the server, having quite an interesting day considering that I already managed to delete this already once and then had to rewrite the whole thing again. So it's took me 2 hours to do this tutorial today, which it doesn't normally take that long. But there you go. Under the notifications section you can now see it's registered. Phew. So you can see there it's registered to user number 4 and it's displayed as viewed. So we could then, if we wanted, in the system add a new one just by sticking that in there. You are going to get kicked out for spamming. Okay, and then we can stick that in my account, which we saved that in the system, and then go back to here and quick refresh. Then yeah, my spelling's gone mental today as well, but there you go, the notification's been added. So then, as you can see, you can use the back end as well to create notifications for people sending messages, almost like an internal email system. Okay, right, well that covers everything that I'm going to cover in this tutorial today. I hope that you enjoyed this tutorial. Sorry for the few interruptions, but unfortunately life's like that. And if you like this tutorial and you learned a lot from it, then please click the like button. If you want to know more about any tutorials in the coming series, then please click the subscribe button and we'll send a notification to you as soon as that's been made available. Thanks for watching.